Welcome to Channel Samson's Strength. I'm Samson. Today we're going to talk about your diet, by which I mean what and how you eat in a general sense. So everybody has a diet. Your dog has a diet, your cat, your goldfish. And this should not be confused with diet, which is something more restrictive and usually involves a beginning and an end. So that's diet with a small d versus diet with a capital D. In my next video, we'll go over the Samson Skinny, 2 simple rules that will change your life and your body if you follow them. But in this video, what we want to do is zero in on all the stuff that's in your head that has to do with diet and try to come to a clean slate, so to speak. First of all, a disclaimer. I am an expert of sorts. I'm not a specialist. I've done a lot of research, a lot of reading over the last couple decades of being in this industry. I can hold my own on pretty much any topic related to this field. I've certainly got a lot of confidence in everything I have to say about this, but I could be wrong. And new research is always coming out. I would never discourage anybody from seeking out other sources of information. I am a skeptic, and that goes for myself as well. I'm skeptical of anybody calling themselves an expert and expecting that in and of itself to hold sway over opinion. So it isn't the fact that a doctor is a doctor that makes his advice more valuable. It's the training and schooling and experience. And here's why I bring this up. So to become a doctor in the United States, there's really only one required nutrition course in med school. That's it. So you could be a doctor and really never have studied nutrition in any kind of rigorous sense. So unless the doctor specializes in something very specific to nutrition or a related field, just being a doctor doesn't necessarily make him or her an expert in any of this. I know quite a few doctors in Brazil. One runs a lab that focuses on metabolic research and diseases. Obviously a great resource. I also know a plastic surgeon, great guy, can have wonderful conversations with him, but just the fact that he's a doctor, again, doesn't necessarily mean that he has anything more than I do regarding input into this field. So to illustrate this a little further, a common criticism of popular diets such as Atkins South Beach could be said about the Samson Skinny, for example, is that they're restrictive. Okay, so you're eliminating certain food groups or combinations of foods, and this isn't healthy. That's the argument, but it is bull crap. Okay, we have in the United States 600,000 different grocery items on our store shelves. Okay? When I was in the best shape of my life, I lived on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I ate eggs, oatmeal, chicken, rice, beans, and bananas. That's it. I felt fantastic. Now, this was down in Brazil. Little different stuff, a little easier to manage things that way, and we'll get into that. But this idea of a diet being too restrictive, in my opinion, really, it's just an excuse to stay fat, and it doesn't have any basis in science or the history of evolution, for that matter. We were much more restricted 100 years ago. We didn't have 600,000 grocery store items at our fingertips, and we were a lot thinner. Now, the most frightening aspect of all of this comes into focus when we try to visualize our food supply in general. Where does this stuff come from? How is it processed? And so really getting down to the fundamentals here and the beginnings of what ends up being on our plates, okay? So I'll give you a real-world example of this, and this really blows my mind, and I want you to try to internalize this. It might help explain why we have to change a lot of stuff, and it's also has to do with why it's so difficult for me or you as an individual to make changes that we need to make. So I lived in Iowa City for many years. The University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics, UIHC, one of the best hospital systems in the world. I had a couple of surgeries there. It's really an amazing place. When long-term inpatients need dental care, okay, so let's say you're in the hospital for 6 months and you need some dental care, they wheel you over to the University of Iowa College of Dentistry. At the College of Dentistry, they will routinely see patients that require dental care for oral health complications resulting from malnutrition. Okay, now I want you to think about that. If you're in a hospital, one of the best hospitals in the world for too long, you'll be so malnourished that you'll need specialized dental care. A hospital full of doctors, their job is to make you healthy. They can't feed you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, so hospital food is bad. Come on, people. You think you're eating green beans in the hospital. You're actually eating sort of a green bean flavored piece of cardboard, and that's pretty much it. So think about how our staple food products are fortified, okay, with nutrients. What does that mean? What does that mean to be fortified? So these foods are so processed that nutrients need to be added after the fact so that they sort of mimic the kind of nutrients that they're supposed to have naturally. It's completely absurd. Where did the nutrients go in the first place? For example, chicken has 300% more fat today than it did in the 1950s. Back then, a cut of beef from the hind quarter of a cow had the omega-3, omega-6 fat ratio kind of similar to what you'd find in store-bought salmon today. The list goes on and on. So in the 1950s, the average American diet would provide an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio of about 1:4. Okay, 4:1 omega-6 to omega-3. Eating the exact same foods today would give you a ratio of about 20:1. That's what's really going on inside your body, and it's wreaking havoc. And one of the reasons why it's so important to supplement with high-quality omega-3, there's a pro tip for you. So we got a lot of things we got to talk about, but I wanted to make everybody aware of just how deep this stuff goes into our culture, into our society. Back in the Old Testament, things were a lot simpler. Not 600,000 grocery store items, but a lot thinner. Didn't live as long for other reasons. I'll have another video up soon telling you all about the Samson Skinny.